And we are live. What is up, everybody? Aaron the Dog back with breakdown number 2 of 2022. We're back with Lucky Locks for our first LFA of the year. How you doing, Lucky?
I'm doing good, man. Happy to be back in 2022. Got a pretty good LFA card here to break down, so yeah, it should be good.
Yeah, I'm super pumped as always. We got an LFA next week too, so they're keeping us busy early in the year, which I'm always going to welcome. And yeah, I think we're starting out with a really good card, and we'll see if we can maybe find some value. I just took a look at the odds, and I was a little bit surprised on a few of these fights with how wide the lines are. But you know, it's the first card of the year. I noticed this with a couple of the organizations. PFL, the same thing. The first lines of the year for PFL were so huge. And I don't know if you remember the first PFL of the year, but I think there were 6 upsets on it. I think 6 upsets on the
so many, man. I remember that card really well.
And like minus 800, minus 1,000 types of favorites, a minus 600 loss. So, you know, it's you know, I think I noticed definitely with the UFC yesterday, which has lost a couple fights since then, including Brito, which was one of my favorite fighters on the card. We'll see. He might be able to clear protocol, but he was removed from media day, and they're trying to do the whole like, you know, we only need like 5 days and like 3 days. Like, so we'll see if they can. But yeah, it's a tough card with the UFC, and I think the LFA is a little bit easier, but I do think a few of these lines are a little bit out of whack. So I'm super pumped as always. I think LFA, more and more people have started to wake up to the LFA train this last year. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I think so. You see more people talking about it, and it's real good regional fights. I mean, if you're looking to get into regional MMA, this is probably the promotion I would tell you to start watching for sure.
Yeah. Would you prefer an LFA prospect or a Dana White Contender Series prospect?
I mean, I'm not really that high on a lot of the Dana White's Contender Series guys, to be honest. Like sometimes you get the odd guy that comes in that is really good, but those guys that get like 3-4 fights in LFA, you know, like get the belt. Normally those are pretty solid fighters most of the time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree. Once in a while you get Sadiq Youssef, but more often than not you get like I mean, there's been I think some of the worst fighters from the promotion fought and got in there through the Contender Series.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
I'm looking at you, Jared Vandera. I'm looking at you, Harry Hunsucker, who lost on Contender Series. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a grab bag on there. But LFA, I think, much more consistent. And, you know, I like it. There's certain guys that just kind of stick around LFA like their whole career, and then they'll like go into an XFN fight and then come back. Brandon Phillips. You know, like maybe a Bellator, but you know, a lot of mainstays on here. Not too many new guys. Yeah, Silveria.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's prospect of the year from last year for me. I think LFA Fighter of the Year. Would you say?
Yeah, when they did the little poll, that's who I voted for male fighter of the year. So
yeah, I mean Charles Johnson's another guy who I really like.
100%.
Getting ready to fight. I can't believe the UFC hasn't picked him up yet. They must just want to see him beat the hell out of one more person and like have him come in uber hyped, because I figured after his last performance, nearly perfect against was it Yuma Horiguchi, his last one? Yeah,
his last fight.
I mean, that was a fantastic fight, and Yuma is UFC quality too. But enough about that. We'll get on to the card here. Armchair, thank you for joining us. Everybody else, thank you. Yeah, it's good to see everybody yesterday for the card. Yeah, we'll go ahead and hop into this one here. I'm just trying to get to where I can, for whatever reason. Is it showing up on your side?
The
Tapology?
Tapology? No, it's not up for me.
Okay. Yeah, it's not showing up on my side either. So that's a little bit of UFC signed Silveria, obviously. I think my only worry about Silveria is is he a 185er? Is he a 205er? He's really a 195er. Yeah. There's no 195 division though. So like that's my biggest worry, is he's going to run into someone too big at 205. And I don't think 185 is realistic as he moves on in his career. So yeah, whatever reason, Tapology not showing up here. So we're just going to go with our faces today. I'm going to have the card pulled up on the side here, and we'll keep going. But yeah, we'll just keep it moving. So you get to see more of us. You get to see my new glasses. That's great. That's the real reason I'm doing it. We're just going to be doing the main card. Obviously, there are a few prelims. we're just not going to venture into those. But prelims usually on Facebook, but sometimes they're not. It's really, they should just put the whole card on Fight Pass. But whatever. I don't work for the UFC or Fight Pass. First fight is at featherweight, John Pham versus Anvar Nazarov, former kickboxer from Uzbekistan, known as the Uzbek in Anvar. I'll be referring to him as the rest of the card. But Anvar 2-0 as a pro, has a ton of Muay Thai experience, a ton of kickboxing experience. He's beat some decent guys in kickboxing. He has a lot of losses, though. I'll be honest, he's about 500, but facing some of the best guys in the world over in Thailand and then with kickboxing. Definitely a good striker. It's taken advantage of it in his first 2 fights, although it's against the Rob Fuller, who, if you know regional MMA, you know that's an auto win. 1 in 10 Rob Fuller at the time Anvar faced him. And then Henry Krapp, which just, I'm going to assume he sucks. He's 0-0, but like, that's just not, he's 0-5 now. So his 2 wins are against 0-5, 1 in 10, 1 in 14 now, Rob Fuller, who's lost 3 times since facing Anvar. But yeah, I just think with Anvar, we don't really know where he's at in MMA. He's got world-class kickboxing. So it's just kind of the story you see with a lot of these guys, where it's just like you're going to be facing such a low level at first that you're going to look like Alex Pereira did in LFA, Anvar did. John Pham, I think, is a little better, though. I think John Pham is a pretty good test here. He beat Evers Anderson, which a lot of guys on this card have faced or beat Evers Anderson. It's like the weirdest common opponent. But Evers Anderson's a solid kickboxer himself and a good test. So definitely a good win coming there. Before then, his losses to Christian Rodriguez, who's now 6-0, legit prospect, and Eddie Torres, who's also very solid himself. I think he just competed over in Fury grappling, but yeah, both his losses just very solid. I think that John Pham is much more experienced in MMA, but he's got a ton of losses in an amateur career. So it's just like really weird kind of fight here. I think like most people are probably just going to be leaning with Anvar because the world-class striking. I'm going to go with John Pham, especially once after I heard the odds. I just think it's worth a shot there. Let's see if Anvar can MMA, because I do know John Pham can. And so even though John Pham as an amateur was like, I think like 2-8 or something, like
1-7, 2-8.
Yeah, really what? Yeah, but also has some Muay Thai bouts. So I'm hoping that will lead him to be comfortable facing a stand-up technical stand-up fighter, but not lead him to getting into a stand-up bout. If this is on the feet, Anvar wins. Obviously, he's got a lot of really unique kicks. Looks like he's in good shape. Also, I've seen some video with him, so he might come in here and just starch this John Pham guy. But John Pham hasn't been finished by strikes since a boxing bout early on. So I'm gonna go with John Pham here, just picking Team MMA basically. But not a huge wager here, and I'm only betting it because I'm a degenerate.
Yeah, it's I don't really have too much more to add. I mean, you kind of touched on all the main points. John Pham was like 1-7 in his amateur career or something like that. But 4-2 as a pro now, and as you mentioned, a win over Evers Anderson. That's a pretty good win. And the losses, Eddie Torres, Christian Rodriguez, like those are solid guys. So his pro resume is nothing to just gloss over for sure. Boy Nazarov, obviously, long kickboxing, Muay Thai career, Bellator, Glory, trying his hand at MMA, 2-0, 2-round 1 knockouts over not very good opponents at all. And this is for
as
sure
bad as
gonna
you
be,
can get.
Yeah, for sure going to be his toughest test. I'm kind of leaning just like straight prediction wise towards Anvar, but like there's no way I'm going to play him at -400. I'm probably just going to pass on this one.
Yeah, I'm just taking a shot on the underdog here.
No, that's fair. I mean, if you're going
to hoping it gets a little wider as people see maybe highlights of Anvar. I think LFA most definitely wants Anvar to kind of have the win here, but at the same point, they didn't give him an easy debut. They really didn't. I don't think John Pham is. There's other guys they could have brought in, and
they could have brought in like a 1-1 guy to.
This is like. Yeah, it's like surprising. It seems like more of like if LFA was like doing the full, like trying to set up the prospect or set up the skill guy, give this like Pham as like his third fight. It's like you've kind of seen, but either way, hopefully it's a good fight. If not, I might look pretty dumb here. I don't know why Tapology just isn't working, but oh well. Move on to the next fight here. I do have odds on the rest of the fights. I didn't have any on that one, but once it becomes available, I'm going to take a shot at the underdog probably on Friday once the odds get as far apart as possible. And if everybody all of a sudden realizes John Pham is going to win this automatically, maybe I missed the boat. But I have a feeling like that's not what's going to happen. So next fight, really, really good fight. I think my fight of the night. Honestly, I love Alden Correa. I think he's a really legitimate prospect, super exciting. But I also I've liked what I saw of Michael Sear quite a bit. Got to watch a few of his fights here, and these guys are pretty similarly matched up, very lengthy. I think it's 5'10 versus 5'10 versus 5'8, but Alden has very long arms also. So I think they both are kind of lengthier, taller grapplers, and it might just be who has the better stand-up because I think they might be canceling out those aspects of their game. But Michael Sear now 3-0 for I think he's called the Mullet. Yeah, the Mullet, aptly named. He does have a mullet, so there's that. 5-0, as I said, coming off of win over Kenneth Jordan, so really hasn't faced a huge level of competition yet. There has been, there was kind of some talks on a couple of his fights, though, saying that he's had trouble finding opponents. This does happen quite a bit, though, where you kind of hear that from organizations. So it does kind of appear to be true, though, with Sear from what I saw in that fight, though. Cameron Jordan actually quit at the end of the fight. Like after the fight, he said, "I'm not doing this anymore." And he was like the guy they were expecting to come in and win in that fight, even though he was 1-0. Like he was coming in pretty hyped. And from what was told, didn't go and watch Cameron Jordan tape, but he looked to be the favorite in that fight and expected to win. And Sear just took it to him, took the back really nicely, finished it with a squeeze. Didn't even get the arm under the neck, so that might be an indication of where Cameron was at in that fight mentally. Alden by no means has any sort of thoughts that I'm not doing this at all. He's fully committed. He's been over at Tiger Muay Thai, been over at Fortis MMA. He's been kind of all over the place now at 4 Ounce Fight Club. This is going to be his fourth fight with LFA. He's also fought with Fury, so I really like all those fights. Donnie Ballou last time out was, a very kind of challenging, offensively minded opponent, and he guillotined him inside of the first round. Looked really good. I actually picked Donnie in that fight too. I was trying to be too smart for my own good. But yeah, definitely did not come out well. Donnie got blown away, but so it makes me a little hesitant here. I think this is going to be a very close fight though, and way closer than the odds are indicating. I think these guys match up really well with each other, and I definitely see a lot of avenues for Michael Sear to take this one. This one I'm just going to pass on. I'm going to take Alden. This is kind of like your first prediction. My official pick is Alden, but I'm real tempted to take a shot at the dog, but I'm going to just leave it be. But I don't like the odds with this one. But Alden might just be the next kind of prospect at the bantamweight division. Honestly, I could see him being an LFA champion.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you pretty much on a lot of the stuff you touched on. I mean, Correa is still young, 23 years old, and if you were to tell me that this was the best 125, because he is normally a flyweight, 125-pound prospect in the state of Texas, I don't think I would challenge you on that. I would probably be inclined to agree. Jumping up to 135 here, he's fought there in the past. He's fought at 130 at catchweights. But yeah, really aggressive and athletic. He looks for the finish. He's a strong grappler, pretty quick. He has some low kicks. He has some decent counter striking as well. Pretty explosive at 125. We'll see what he looks like at 135. But I think he's going to carry that explosiveness up with him. Obviously, he's a very dangerous grappler. 3 round-1 submissions in 5 fights. Very quick guy, but yeah, man, Michael Sear, I think this is going to be one of the toughest matchups that Correa has had. I was absolutely shocked to see him open at minus 800. That was like super bizarre to me. He's down to like minus 600 now, but even that is still like a lot too wide for my liking. 2 good prospects matching up here. Sear 3-0. Hasn't fought the greatest guys, but 3 early finishes. I mean, he's doing everything that you would expect him to do, training at Warrior Camp, teammates with Terrence McKinney. He has good grappling, shown good submission offense, good ability to do damage and pursue dominant positions, advance. Correa is another very skilled grappler. I think, like you kind of mentioned, they might cancel out in that aspect in this one, and it really might come down to the stand-up. At the end of the day, I'm going to pick Alden Correa here. I just feel like he's a bit more polished, a bit more experienced. This isn't his first time fighting in LFA or anything like that. He's had some tougher fights than Sear has. So I'm going to go with Alden Correa. But yeah, the line is a lot too wide in this one, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a close fight and maybe one of the best ones on this card.
Yeah, no, I agree. 23 and 26, both guys very young in their careers too. And I think Michael Sear, another thing is he's going to be the most confident opponent that Alden's faced so far.
Yep.
I have seen a little bit of opponents getting in their heads against Alden, which is, again, a credit to Alden. But, like, for example, Donnie looked so confident, and I think he had, like, a 4 or 5 fight win streak going into that fight, and, like, it just looked like a different fighter in there. There are levels to this, as some rapper said back in the day. I don't know. But we're going to move on here, as I sound as white as possible, to the next fight. Steve Jones versus Chris Brown. And if you have the odds on this one, I actually don't have those available either. So
Steve Jones opened up as a plus 120 underdog. He's now a minus 140 favorite.
Damn it. Okay. Well, that gives a little bit of my position away here. I'm going to say first off the bat, I appreciate Chris Brown, but I'm not a Chris Brown believer at all. I'm not. It is it's I don't know. Maybe I just have a little bit of some concerns with Chris Brown if he's fully committed to kind of keeping his body in good shape here. He's had to move up to 170 from 155. He's a pretty small 170 or 2 at 5'11", and did talk about in fight a couple fights ago against Kevin Rayford, I believe it was. He talked about how he had really let his weight get high, and I mean, he looked pretty gassed in that fight, and I think, frankly, he was just lucky to be facing kind of an inexperienced Calvin Rayford 2 fights ago. And then Glacio El Rosario, I don't really rate that guy that great. He seems to lose every time he fights in LFA.
That was a short notice replacement. It was supposed to be this matchup, wasn't it? For that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So, Steve had to pull out. So, he put him away, fighting over at Jackson Winklejohn, which I'm not sure what that means in 2022. I don't know if that's even like kind of a good thing anymore. Like, I just don't really, I don't think Greg Jackson's really even over there anymore. And so I think it's just mostly Winklejohn. But Chris Brown, he's faced some good opponents, lost a few of those as well. But there's just something about Chris Brown. He is very active, especially with his kicks, throws them all over the place, front, side, leg kicks. So he does stay active with those. But I have some questions about his cardio for sure. And I think I don't have those questions with Steve Jones. Steve Jones gets stronger as the fight goes. He gives away first rounds way too much, of course, and that's a problem. But I think as the fight goes on, this becomes more a Steve Jones fight. I just don't see there being a finish on either side here. I think these guys are both veterans, and they're both pretty durable. So I don't exactly see the finish. I think it goes all 15. I think it's going to be pretty gritty, and that leads me to leaning towards Steve Jones. Took the 3rd round against Nikolai Venturkanov last fight, and I think it's going to be kind of a similar type of gas tank he's handling here. And I think that he should be able to get it done. I think they're going to be trading a lot of kicks here, a lot of leg kicks, and it's going to be probably fought at a distance for a lot of it. But I think Steve Jones kind of starts to use a little more cage pressure as it goes, tries to push the pace, and I think he's going to be in better shape, and that will be the difference. So I like Steve Jones by decision.
Yeah, Chris Brown, 7-3 Jackson Wink fighter. He has some good wins. He's a win over CFFC lightweight champ Blake Smith. Obviously, didn't have that title at the time, but that win aged pretty well. He's fought kind of all over the place. Been a lightweight, been a welterweight, done catch weights at 160, 165, 175, you name it. The 3 losses: Thomas Gifford, Bahamondes, and Carrington Banks. Not bad at all. And he's currently on a 2-fight win streak in the LFA. Obviously, we were supposed to see this matchup before, but it fell through. He's got pretty good footwork, likes to stay to the outside, land on his feet, has a pretty decent reach, uses those little side kicks, those knee stomps kind of to keep the distance, almost like a jab. And he lost the fight to Bahamondes, but he held his own there with a really good fighter. It was a split decision. I didn't think it was a particularly bad performance from Chris Brown, and I bet on him as a dog against Calvin Rayford. I've picked him in his last 2 fights. So
he was a dog against Rayford?
He opened as a dog, yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. I
I know.
can't believe
It's
that.
a really weird line, but I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
so
insane.
basically what I'm trying to say, he's in my good graces. I'm a fan of Chris
Fair
Brown,
enough. Okay.
but Steve Jones, very good fighter, training with some good guys in Texas. Last fight against Nikolai Veretennikov, that snapped a 5-fight win streak, and that was a pretty, back and forth fight for the most part. American Combat Alliance 170-pound champ. He has a win over Tyler Ray on LFA, and he was a big underdog in that fight. I just think he's the cleaner boxer in this matchup. Not insane power, but really, stiff and crisp striking. And if he does land properly, it's going to be a heavy shot. I like his combinations. He's shown some serviceable takedown defense and scrambling ability, especially in that fight against Tyler Ray. I don't think Brown is really going to try to replicate any of that, but Jones is pretty decent in the clinch as well. He originally was the dog. He's now a slight favorite. I agree with the current line a lot more than the opener, so I'm going to agree with you here and pick Steve Jones to win.
Yeah, no, I think that's the right line, and I think that I don't think it's egregious that Brown was the favorite to open either.
No, it's close.
So yeah, it's a close fight. I would edge towards Steve Jones, and I would probably, as long as it stays around there, I think I'll probably put a wager down on Steve, because I do kind of see the fight script kind of going that way. But either way, maybe I'm just discrediting Chris Brown far too much, and maybe I'm listening to Kelvin Rayford's corner where they were talking about how out of shape he was as he lost the fight. So maybe I'm getting in my own head there, but we'll see. Next fight, probably the weirdest one on the main card here. Isaiah Gutierrez taking on Keaton Gorton. Keaton Gorton with the crisp record of 6-5. Looks like he might be heading towards 500 zone here. Lost his third fight to Mark De La Rosa by split. So that's kind of interesting because he did go on to the UFC and have no sort of success there. But so a UFC fighter. His other 4 losses, he got finished in them. The only fight he didn't get finished in of his losses was the UFC, guys. So go figure there. Got knocked out by Evers Anderson. So another Evers Anderson participant there. He's been knocked out a few times. He's been submitted once, a doctor's stoppage. So he's kind of been all over the place. He's beat next to no competition. He got knocked out by a 10-14 guy. I mean, this is not looking great for Keaton. Didn't have a ton of tape available either, so I did have to kind of tapology this one. So, yeah, from what I saw there, this seems like they're bringing in Isaac Gutierrez to get a win at 6-1 here for the now 29-year-old. So they're both 29. Fighting out Travis Lutter, BJJ, also known as the Michael Jordan of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, according to Joe Rogan back in the day. He has a win over Evers Anderson. So, that just solves it with MMA math, right? His only loss coming to Kevin Worth, who's not a bad opponent at all, really kind of slick veteran type of opponent. He fights very gritty. And he lost in the 3rd round there with Kevin Worth. So I think that's the kind of fight that makes him better. It was a pretty good fight with LFA as well. Went outside of LFA for a couple fights, went over to Bellator. I think that Isaiah Gutierrez most likely knocks him out.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you there. Gutierrez is a 135-pound champ in CCFC and XKO. And that one loss in his career came against Kevin Worth, as you pointed out. That's a good fighter. And we did mention the common opponent of Evers Anderson. Also got a shout-out, Alonzo Jordan. Both of them fought that guy. Right. Isaiah Gutierrez beat him, and Keaton Jordan was submitted in that one, I believe.
So that's double MMA math. That's just
double MMA math. Can't possibly go wrong. Gutierrez, he's a rangy fighter. He has good footwork, good movement, very light on his feet. He'll switch stances, really invest in those low kicks. And we've seen those be really effective in some of his past fights. He has some flashy techniques as well. Throw some hook kicks, some spinning back kicks. Just an explosive striker. I like the way he looks on the feet. Solid jiu-jitsu game. Saw him work some wrestling on Bellator against Aaron Vickers. Showed some good ability to display his defensive wrestling there as well. And I think he'll actually be the better grappler here, in addition to having some good striking. Went 5 rounds for the XKO championship in his last fight, so cardio checks out. Keaton Gordon, also fighting out of Texas. I think he's a little better than 6-5, but I don't think he's quite on the same level as Isaiah Gutierrez is. He's also pretty light on his feet. Looks to give you some feints, a little more wild than Gutierrez, but a somewhat similar style, I guess. Kind of likes to eat up the lead leg. Decent kickboxer overall. He's pretty good in the clinch, pretty fast in the feet. But I agree with you, man. I think Gutierrez is going to find a finish in this one. I just think he's better in more aspects of the game.
Yeah, this seems like a kind of fight where Isaiah tests his grappling maybe a little bit. So, maybe this is where he's like, oh, I can get a submission against this kind of level of opponent. But yeah, either way, I think that, it's like 2 negatives equal a positive, 2 MMA masks definitely equal just a stone cold lock. You can't find me too many fights where they have 2 opponents the same, where it's 2 opposite results and the guy who has the losses wins. I know that MMA math isn't great, but I'd put a challenge out to people to find me 10 times that happened last year. I bet they can't. I bet it's less than 10 times it happened last year, but I don't know. I'll stop pulling shit out of my ass now. Gonna move on to the odds. Sorry, -600 for Gutierrez right now, +400. It's just the odds of the night. If you're a big favorite, they're gonna be like, yeah, -600. I think that one's just a little more accurate. And we'll move on to the co-main event of the night. Good one here between Elijah Johns, Miles Johns' brother, been in LFA for a minute now, taking on Brandon Phillips, who's just been all over the place, veteran kickboxer, came back and fought Aaron McKenzie at 155 and gave him a hell of a fight. I mean, like that was an absolute sweat. I bet on McKenzie. He was like one of my parlay pieces, and I was worried. It was 1-1 or 2-0 for Brandon Phillips going into that third round.
Yeah, I was really worried it was 2-0, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and it must have been 1-1, obviously, with how the result came. But still, I mean, Aaron McKenzie's fighting the main event of this fight. Aaron McKenzie's been really impressive, and Brandon Phillips, the striking looked excellent. The leg kicks were really effective. He looked very confident, composed, and that was at 155. He's back down at 145, definitely his natural weight class. And I don't think that this is like an impossible cut for him or anything like that. I think this is where he should be. So for me, the real key with Brandon Phillips in this fight is pace. Pace. That's how you beat Elijah Johns. I think Elijah Johns often is a little too passive. He kind of lets the fighter take the fight to him. That's why we've seen in his last fight against Souza, we saw the split decision. I thought Souza won that fight pretty clearly, and it was just on a lack of activity from Johns. We've seen that in a couple other fights too, that he's gone on to win. So maybe, it's like, I get it. He's had some good results here, but I think they're against pretty low levels of opponents. I mean, Zach Kelly, 9-21, 2-1, 3-3, Aaron Webb, the first strike he got hit with, he pulled an Anthony Ivy and started shelling up. So it's just like, these aren't like the craziest of wins here. The Luke Faltersack fight was another one where no way he should have went to a decision with him. He should have been able to finish that one pretty easily. I hate to say this, but I think he's the lesser of the Johns brothers. There's always a lesser brother, and I think he's the lesser one here. That being said, he's not rushing over to the UFC. I give him credit for that, and he did come off of allegedly a split decision against a now UFC competitor in Bruno Souza. Bruno Souza is a very good, crafty guy as well. And I think that the craft gets to him again. I think Brandon Phillips can kind of take the fight to Elijah Johns. I don't know why I keep saying Elijah or Elijah's, but Elijah Johns. And I really just think that Phillips going back down to 145, I think he's taking a lot of confidence from the last fight with McKenzie. And I like that he's not just bouncing back to kickboxing or Muay Thai here. He's sticking with MMA again. So I'm going to take Brandon Phillips here. I am aware he's a dog. But yeah, I think that the veteran and the cardio and pace can be the difference. So I like Brandon Phillips in a close decision.
Yeah. Elijah Johns, you pointed out, we just saw him fight against Bruno Souza, lost a split decision there, and Souza obviously went on to sign with the UFC, so not a really bad loss. He hasn't really fought that many great guys. For a guy that's fought so many LFA fights, he doesn't have a ton of good fights outside of Bruno Souza and Eddie Brown, and those are kind of the two losses on his 7-2 resume. But 7 of his 9 pro fights have been in the LFA. He hasn't had a weak strength of schedule by any means, but not super strong. Throw some feints, likes to fake the level change. He's a powerful striker, but not really always that precise, and he can leave himself open for counters at times. And I think that Phillips is a good striker. I won't be surprised if he tags Johns a few times in those exchanges. I think Johns will be the one with more raw power, but he throws a lot of singular strikes or just comes in with a double jab, like tries to enter with that and then just doesn't really do a whole lot after that. I think you'd kind of like to see him throw a little more combinations. He's a good wrestler, has solid takedown defense. Have seen him get taken down. Haven't really seen him get held down that much. I think he'll probably have the advantage in the wrestling exchanges. I don't think he's going to have a ton of cardio issue, but he does kind of have a bit of an output issue at times. I don't think he's necessarily tired. He just is like you see, kind of hit the nail on the head. He's a little bit passive at times.
I mean, his brother is too. His brother kind of has the same type of issue.
They have a similar style. And Phillips has fought bantamweight 145, 155, back in the middle at 145 here. He's listed at 5'5" on Tapology. He was 5'6" in the last LFA broadcast and been doing a lot of kickboxing lately. 3 of the 4 losses that he has, AJ McKee, Bryce Mitchell, Aaron McKenzie, can't really fault him there. Started kickboxing at XFN, won a title, and back in the MMA world now. And he's got good footwork, good feints, able to strike moving backwards, able to get out of the pocket when his opponent enters, and he can kind of land some shots on his exit. He's got quick hands. I think he's going to have a lot better hand speed than Johns. Really quick straight jab. He was able to beat Aaron McKenzie to the punch a lot, especially in the early rounds. In the last one, and McKenzie had 4.5 inches of reach on him. He jabs to the body. I think he's going to throw way more combinations than Johns. And his takedown defense looked pretty damn good through 2 rounds against Aaron McKenzie. Now he's down a weight. I mean, obviously he got taken down in the 3rd round, but coming down a weight class now, Johns isn't as big as McKenzie is. I was just pretty impressed with Phillips in that fight. And like I said this in my own video today, like if you were to give me this fight at even money, I guess I would tell you Elijah Johns probably, but from
it's not at even money.
I know.
It's not at even money
at this line, man. Like I'm definitely not betting Johns. I think I'm going to play Brandon Phillips. I'm going to wait and see what this line does because it was plus 165, went to plus 200, now at plus 225. I'm just going to see how big that number can get. I guess like prediction wise, I'll say Elijah Johns, but I'm going to bet Brandon Phillips here.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to go with Phillips here with my bet, and I'm pretty similar along the lines with you. I think if this was even, I am leaning towards Johns a little bit, but plus 240 is the price I'm getting on Brandon Phillips right now. It's minus 300. Minus 300 on Elijah Johns. I think
that's pretty wide.
Yeah, that's
especially after how good Phillips looked last time.
Yeah, it's like you can't just look and see unanimous decision loss, and that was questionable to be a decision for McKenzie at all. Which again, I think McKenzie is a better wrestler than Johns. I think he's bigger than Johns. I think he's a pretty similar opponent to Johns. He's just better than Johns. So I think Phillips has been preparing for a type of opponent like this for 2 camps now. So, I think those are all just factors there. And maybe it's not the cardio. It might just be kind of hesitation from Johns, but either way, he fights like a tired man as the fight goes on. So either he's mentally or physically getting exhausted in there, I think. So either way, and I think that the management of him knows, which is why he's had this level of opponents throughout. I think they kind of know, like he's almost there, but not quite. And this is like Brandon Phillips is a perfect gatekeeper for the LFA. Like, it's like, if you can beat Brandon Phillips, you're on your way. If you can't, you're not. Like, that's basically it. So I don't think Brandon Phillips is ever making an UFC debut, but he's going to be very, useful for the regional scene. And I think that's pretty great. So, and who knows if he is impressive here and strings together a couple, I might be wrong because he does have legitimate stand-up. So it's still only, I think, 31, 32 years old. So move on to the main event here. But yeah, pretty similar views on that one. We got Aaron McKenzie taking on Joshua Jones. This is a interesting fight between 2 good wrestlers who are going to cancel out their wrestling, and it's who has the better stand-up, I think. I hate to be cliche here a little bit and sound like a broken record, but this is at lightweight, so that's the first concern for me for Joshua Jones. He's been all over the place. He's been up the middleweight, and he's kind of been all over the place. His last fight was at 100 and 70. 100. Oh, it was a 180 catch weight. Yeah, against Johnny Cisneros. That's right. Yeah. And I was just like, I was just like, okay. I mean, he grounded pounded him out. Johnny Cisneros, not the best level of opponent, but still, the Brandon Bender fight was really impressive to me. Before that, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, Brandon Bender was the favorite for that. And that was at 160. Brandon Bender usually a welterweight. So one thing right off the bat for Joshua Jones is that he's very comfortable fighting guys who are bigger and stronger than him. And I mean, he's now coming down to 155. It's going to be interesting to see how he makes the weight, how it translates into the fight, because he does look like he has a lot of weight he can cut in those fights when he's at 180. Like, it does look a little bit flabby and like, yeah, there's some water. There's definitely some weight to cut there, unlike some guys who are like, where's this weight cut coming from? So I do think he'll be able to, and he's a wrestler. He's been a wrestler his whole life. So I think that the weight cut is kind of part of it. Had some losses early on, and actually got finished in all 4 of his losses by strikes. So those Chantel Yamamoto, not heard of him, but Christian Aguilera over at CXF, we know him. Jacob Rosales took him to a decision, I should say. Then Darren Smith Jr. and Arut Paragnian elbowed him when he was shooting in for a really sloppy wrestling attempt. So that's right away. One of my concerns is that he leaves his head there to be exposed on takedowns, on double legs. He really will commit to it. And maybe he's learned from getting elbowed in the side of the head and being put away, like not to do that anymore. Arut's very good, as well, as we've broken down with, I believe, Fury or Cage or CFFC. I'm not sure. But either way, I know he's a legitimate guy. I just think this is going to be a good fight. But I just think Aaron McKenzie really just is a little bit better everywhere. If someone's going to get the wrestling going, I do think it will be McKenzie. I think he's the better scrambler, the better grappler on the feet. I think he's significantly quicker and more volume. So, I mean, for Joshua Jacobs, it's pretty simple. You got to get out there and dominate with your wrestling. Joshua Jones. Geez, so many J's. Joshua Jones. I think it's pretty simple. Go out there and hope you're the better wrestler, because I just think his stand-up is really not all that great. He uses his stand-up to, set up his wrestling for the most part. He'll be the bigger guy, but I think he's going to have much less gas here. I like McKenzie. I don't like the price at all. So this is just a straight-up pass for me. But Aaron McKenzie should take this one. But after how he looked against Brandon Phillips, I'm a little bit shaky on him, even though I just picked Brandon Phillips. I'm talking out both sides of my mouth in a way. That was a fight he was supposed to go in there and do, kind of do work, and really he didn't. So I can't fully commit to this price. I think it's pretty heavy, and I think Joshua Jacobs is better. Joshua Jones is better than people give him credit for, even if people don't know his name.
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup. McKenzie, obviously, if you watch regional MMA, you follow the regional circuit at all, this guy, extensive amateur career as well. And he's fought his last 3 fights on LFA, coming off that win over Brandon Phillips. Can be a bit of a slow starter at times, but he does have good wrestling and grappling, solid kickboxer. He's a well-rounded fighter. I like his game. He throws feints, gives different looks. Going to have a big reach advantage here, really big. He likes the low kicks. He's got pretty good movement. I think he's going to be the more athletic fighter here. And he's not small at 155. He's a pretty big guy. He's got decent power. He's a serviceable striker, good wrestler, very dangerous on the ground. We've seen that bail him out of some tricky situations before, and that's great to have in his back pocket. Not the quickest guy at 155, but I think he'll still be a little bit quicker than Joshua Jones is here. He's definitely able to stay fresh into the later rounds. He's got good cardio and good durability as well. He can take a shot. Jones is going to be 2 years younger, and he's also been around the block. I mean, he's 11-6, 5-5 in his last 10, but he's fought pretty decent guys, to be fair. Jacob Rosales, Christian Aguilera. I picked Jones to win in his last fight on Bellator, but this is going to be a tough one for him, in my opinion. McKenzie is pretty tough. Jones is tough too, and I think he's a little better than people realize. He's not the most dynamic mover in the cage, but he has some pop on his punches, some powerful double legs. And I think that he might surprise some people with just the way that he looks in there. He can bring out some high kicks at certain times. He's a good wrestler and was able to use his wrestling really well in his last fight and have some success. And he does look to do damage on the ground, does look to advance. And I kind of liked what I saw out of him from his last time out, but I think McKenzie's a bit of a level above here. I think that the big reach advantage is going to play to his favor on the feet. I think there could be some interesting wrestling exchanges, but I think McKenzie's bigger frame might give him a little bit of an edge there. And I think that he is the better grappler actually on the ground. So yeah, I'm going to go with Aaron McKenzie to win this one in the main event.
Yeah. And I agree for the most part. I just think that prices are definitely going to keep me away from really committing too much to this. Minus 350, plus 260 on Joshua Jones. And then Joshua Jacobs is the running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. So that's why I kept saying that. So he is playing on Sunday. Maybe that's your sign to take the Joshua Jacobs touchdown prop on Sunday. I think that's just your sign. So don't bet on Joshua Jones. Bet on Joshua Jacobs. Anytime touchdown Sunday. That's your free advice from me. But if you're wrong on that, don't blame me. But that is going to do it for the first LFA breakdown of the year. Hopefully we can get the shared screen back in the future, but we work through it. It's all good. With this card, I mean, did we agree on all 6 here?
I think pretty much, maybe besides the first one, but it's not.
Yeah, Anvar. Yeah, exactly. You're not married to it, but yeah, we're going to count that as a disagreement. So you got Anvar, but otherwise, the other 5, Alden Correa, we like quite a bit. Steve Jones, Isaiah Gutierrez, and then we're both on Brandon Phillips. You're a little more hesitant on it than I am. I understand. And then we're both on McKenzie for the main event. What do you guys think of? All right, hold on. What do you guys think about the over-under guys coming down in weight may gas, but also may be bigger guy in wrestling exchanges? I mean, I think this fight goes most likely the distance between McKenzie and Jones. I would imagine that would be significantly to the minus like 200 or so, just because these are 2 wrestlers who I think both, have the ability to finish, but I think with how they usually finish, they're not going to be able to finish their opponents. So I would say the overs safe on that one. But yeah, Lucky Locks picks on YouTube. Everybody go check it out. He's got his LFA breakdown in there, which I think is also way more helpful to kind of listen to as you're making your bets, because it's so much more succinct than my 40-minute show. They both have their benefits, but sometimes I add a little bit extra. If you don't like it, that's all good. But I don't know why you're here. But yeah, anything else coming up for you on the channel, or just kind of keep on grinding with the regional stuff for you?
Yes, sir. Business as usual. Got another LFA card to do next week, getting them back to back. So
yep.
Good
So
way
we'll
to
be
start off
back.
the year.
Yeah, we'll be back next week to cover that as well. So looking forward to that. We got Invicta tonight. Real quick with Invicta, I have not a lot of plays I'm making tonight, just because I think it's a pretty tough one to call. But I do like a double, and I put a pretty hefty 5-unit bet on this double. It does get me down. It got me down to about minus 140 when I bet it. But Haley Cohen and Raquel. Let me get the proper name here. In Ramona Pascual. I like those 2 together. Haley Cohen still only minus 285 on my site against a pretty inexperienced opponent in Monica Franco. Haley Cohen's a super athletic, very good level fighter with Extreme Couture. So facing training with King Casey O'Neill, the likes of those types. So very good level. And Ramona Pascual, very good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. So I like those 2 together for a minus 140. The rest of the fight card, I think, is a little bit too close for my liking. I do think that Zapatella is a live dog at plus 190 in the main event, because she can wrestle anybody at 105. So should be good fights. I believe they're on YouTube for free. So for Aaron the dog for Lucky Locks picks, we're out until next week. We'll be back with I'll be back with you for on Wednesday or Thursday for the LFA, and also Boston Comments will be joining me for the UFC breakdown show at 7 p.m. on Wednesday or Thursday night. Just stay tuned on the channel. But thanks, everybody. Good luck this weekend, and thank God MMA is back. Peace out.